Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Drawing Dragons. My name is Alec. This week doing something a little bit different. I am going to be making another Civilization VI map, but this time I'm going to be doing another homebrew region. And this is actually my first homebrew region, so it means a lot to me that I'm finally actually being able to do this. And it is the region of Gallison up here on the screen, hopefully. So Gallison, as you're seeing it here, is my very first region. It began in that city of Amory right down there. And I began with actually a small town next to the city. And my players said, let's go to the big city. And they say, okay. So I drew the city. And then they went to the city and they say, okay, we want to explore more. So I had to create a more, bigger region. And then they said, okay, we want to explore the whole region. So I had to make the whole region. And so it kind of just exploded from there. And so I'm going to be remaking this in Civilization 6. So let's get into it. Like I said, the first step is to draw the land. So that's what I'm doing right now. And it is nice because in the world builder settings, you can now actually do larger brush sizes. I start off with the small one just because it allows me to make a bit more of a finer point. And so that's what I'm doing in this first step. And some people maybe would paint with the different terrain types and things. I just start off with grassland because I just want to get the shape of the land first. And then once I'm happy with it, then I can go through and actually do more detailed work. And so I'm just kind of zooming forward because this does take a little bit of time. I am just following the map. So I've got the plan that I had up on one screen, and then I have actually Civilization 6 up on the other, and I'm just drawing it as I do. And you see I actually end up erasing a couple parts. And you'll also notice I did decide to do a wrapping world, meaning you can go sail from the East Coast to the West Coast. I decided to do that just because it's more of a fun map to play on. Now I'm painting the terrain. I usually start off with like deserts and tundra, and then do plains kind of in between. Just because those are the extremes, because it's already got grassland, tons of grassland. So I do desert and I do tundra, and once I know where those are, then I know where the actual grassland and the actual plains should be, because those are kind of the more temperate, sort of medium climate things versus the like extremes of desert and tundra. Um, and again, usually the plains I feel like are kind of near the desert, but not always. And the tundra, at least for this map, is in the north because this is a relatively northern country on the globe. Um, so I'm going through and I'm placing lakes, placing mountains. We're speeding up here. So again, this is the second step where I paint the features. Technically in the game, there's a terrain section, which is the tundra and the desert, and then there's a features one where it's actually like the forests and the hills and things. I kind of combine it into one step because you are changing what the land itself is like. I'm also adding in rivers. I actually did, after I made this video, go back and add more rivers because I did play test it once or twice, and I found there are a lot of areas where I was wanted to settle, but I was like, there's no rivers nearby, there are no lakes nearby, there's no water. If you've played Civilization 6, settling near water is very critical. And I don't want it to make it where everywhere is a great spot to settle, but I also feel like there should be some water in some of those areas, so I did go back and add more. So I'm just adding in the smaller features and things like marshlands, coral reefs, smaller things like that. The more specialized terrain. And some of this I'm creating new, like it's not on my original map. You'll notice like a lot of these lakes were not originally on my map. I decided to add them in just because it feels like those areas kind of need a lake, and it helps break up the monotony. When I draw my maps for D&D, I make them very broad. I don't do a ton of little details because I don't like to nail things down, and I don't want my players to think that there's less there. Like there's more there that's not drawn on the map. Anyway, this step, I'm now adding actual resources. This is the part that takes the longest because there are so many resources. Like, holy cow. Every time I think I'm almost done, I like scroll down the list. I'm like, oh my God, Jesus, too many. So I'm going through and adding, and there's two philosophies of this. Some of the kinds of resources, they kind of just go all over, like cattle. I mean, cattle are all over, especially because this map has so much grasslands. I'm like, just put the cattle everywhere. But then there are some resources that are more rare, like spices or uranium, and those I have in specific areas. And my uranium, I actually usually place in spots where there are like very powerful magical things in my setting, just because I like the idea that uranium is sort of like the modern version, like the real world version of what magic is in that way, where it's like a super powerful magical artifact or something. So I like to kind of throw that in and add uranium in like the magical hot spots of my country where I know there's either a super powerful artifact or there's like a just a natural location of magic. Um, And then I'm just adding in just other resources and things. So like spices, for example, I like to keep kind of near the desert because that's like what that culture is known for there. So I like to sort of do little pockets of resources and then others. But now the map is done, and so I'm sort of going to give you a tour here. So this is Amory, that small town island there. That is the Ironwood Company, very central location for my D&D game. Then we have the Great Plains and the more sort of central area. Then we're going down to Swampton and the swamps. I know my students actually named that one. I like to let other people name places on this country. The Ozin Desert, a big desert with an oasis traveling along the Great River. Then we've got the eastern sort of edge and the Valor Eastwood, which is just this huge forest, huge forest. Untamed, people do not live there. Then we've got the Coal Top Mountains on one side, and then we have the Gray Valley on the other side. And then once again, the Ironwood Company Island here is very central for my campaign. Anyway, thank you for making it to the end of this video. I am thinking of doing another video like this and making more maps like this, but I want to branch out instead of just doing my own setting every time. I thought maybe I could do a different setting from a different world. So my two ones I'm kind of thinking about trying is either the Forgotten Realms setting, so if you really like D&D in the Forgotten Realms, or I was going to do the Avatar: The Last Airbender setting. So please let me know which one you want me to do, and I will do it. Let me know down in the comments below, or maybe I'll throw a poll up if I can figure that one out. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.